If you ask the average person, what's the function of LDL? They're going to say, well, that's bad cholesterol. Their function is to clog your arteries. But the function of LDL, if you just look up any, physiology book, is this. It delivers cholesterol to the different places in your body. So the purpose of cholesterol is to help you make vitamin D, help you make bile, help you make the cell membranes, and help all of your steroids being created. I'm talking about cortisol, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all of these hormones. You can't make them without cholesterol. So that cholesterol has to be transported to the tissues. How is it transported? Through LDL. So LDL is part of the healing process. You want your LDL to go up while you're healing to deliver the cholesterol to make more of these factors that now are going to help you.
No. Today we will not only respond at Dr. Eric Berg's ridiculous claims here, but we will also look at what VLDLs, IDLs, and LDLs are and how they are created, how they can actually lead to arteriosclerosis, and why you should not be listening to Dr. Eric Berg's advice and you should be worried about high LDL levels in your blood. Let's just start with the fundamentals, something the carnivore doctors or even Dr. Eric Berg doesn't seem to know about. Yes, it's true that we need cholesterol to create vitamin D, steroids, cortisol, testosterone, you name it. But every cell in your body synthesizes, creates cholesterol on their own. LDL cholesterol is also just a term that gets misunderstood. And on that part, I do agree with Dr. Eric Berg. Cholesterol is fat soluble, and our blood is made primarily out of water. What happens if you put a drop of oil or fat in water? They don't really get along with each other that well. In order to transport cholesterol, something that is fat soluble through the bloodstream, we need proteins, or a ship that wraps around cholesterol and transports it safely to its destination. And usually cholesterol gets transported along with fat, or triglycerides. Since triglycerides and cholesterol don't dissolve in blood, we need carriers that carry around the triglycerides and the cholesterol through the blood. And these carriers are called lipoproteins. We have different variations of these lipoproteins. Excess triglycerides and excess cholesterol gets converted at the liver into something called VLDL. VLDL stands for very low density lipoproteins. Excess carbohydrates can also be converted into the liver into triglycerides and put into VLDLs. VLDLs now are being transported from the liver into the bloodstream. The VLDLs are being delivered to your tissues. The tissues have an enzyme that can actually chop apart the triglycerides from the VLDL. That enzyme is called lipoprotein lipase. The free fatty acids get stored in the tissues in order to be used for energy, for example, and for a variety of other functions. After the partial removal of the free fatty acids, something called VLDL remnant remains. VLDL remnants are also known as IDLs, intermediate density lipoprotein. Further removal of free fatty acids and triglycerides will get us the famous LDL, low-density lipoproteins. So LDL is basically the end product of the VLDL metabolism. The LDL specifically carries cholesterol to the following glands: to the gonads, to the adrenal glands, to the muscle, and to the adipose tissues. LDL stays in the blood for the longest time before it gets cleared out by the LDL receptors. And what happens is LDL can actually get into the artery walls. Your immune system doesn't like cholesterol or LDL being stuck in the artery wall, but it sends out soldiers called macrophages to destroy the intruders. But there's not much to destroy here because, again, it's lipoprotein, it's cholesterol. Macrophages only turn into foam cells, and these foam cells settle in the subendothelial part of the affected arteries. And foam cells can lead to plaque building, which then leads to arteriosclerosis. That's why LDL is a pretty good marker and indication for your risk for cardiovascular disease. And looking at mechanistics and telling people, oh, see what LDL does, hence it's not dangerous, is by itself a very dangerous statement. We always want to look at human health outcome data. What happens if we combine observational research with randomized controlled trials and genetic trials? And what happens to people that have high LDL levels versus people that have low LDL levels? And the European Atherosclerosis Society has done an amazing job compiling all the data on this topic. On this graph, you can see at the top the genetic studies, in the middle you can see the observational studies, and down at the bottom you can see the randomized controlled trials. The genetic studies have been conducted on people that have had low LDL levels since birth. Observational studies usually last decades or less, and randomized controlled trials last for a couple of years at max, but that's actually a rarity by itself. What this graph is basically showing is the longer you have the lowest LDL levels in your blood, the lower is the risk for getting cardiovascular disease. Let me repeat that. The longer you have the lowest LDL levels in your blood, the lower your risk is for getting cardiovascular disease. You cannot simply go around and tell people to not worry about cholesterol levels, because our body produces cholesterol levels and cholesterol gets used for many different functions. It would be the equivalent of me going to social media and telling people don't worry about blood sugar levels, because we need blood sugar levels for many different functions. Hence, it cannot be dangerous. Context is what matters, and there's always a threshold. Even breathing too much oxygen in, so more than the 21% being present in the air, can be dangerous and fatal. The dose makes the poison. Extraordinary claim need extraordinary evidence. I will tag you Dr. Eric Berg, and I hope I will get to see some good quality references from your side. Because if you go around spreading so much misinformation, at least I would hope that you have some studies to back up your claims. What are your thoughts about this topic? Feel free to let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you during my next video.